In this tutorial and in the next few, we're going to talk about gear. By this point, you've been developing the concept for your channel, you've been thinking about whether or not to script or to outline, who your audience is, but now we need to really think about building your studio. Now, when I say building your studio, you might start to wonder, wow, this is where I have to get out the checkbook and where this project ends. I don't have a lot of funds to throw at this, and so here Tom is going to tell me all of these high ticket price items that I need that are essential, and so I'm lost. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not true, and that because of the base level quality of off-the-shelf conventional technologies, some of which are already in your pockets, your houses, that you can produce videos the quality of which would have required maybe 5-10 years ago large outlays of cash, but which now are achievable by means of things that many of us now have as part of our day-to-day lives, notably a smartphone of one sort or another. So what I want to do in this tutorial is give you really three different pricing tiers of the kinds of gear that you could either invest in or that you already have, or some combination of the two, to dive into the nitty-gritties of your video production process, but also for those of you who are ready to take the next step or want to invest a modest amount into a new setup, I want to give you a sense of what you could invest in, the best places to put your money that have the kind of highest return on that investment. And then I also want to tell you a little bit about the kinds of higher ticket price items that are out there, still within, let's call it, our neighborhood of YouTube. I assume none of you out there are putting together full-scale production companies. If you are, then chances are you have already surpassed this course. So we're still within the neighborhood of, let's call it, modest size YouTube channels, and those of us who are not dedicating our full time to video production, but rather that they do want to kind of up their game. Now, we're not going to dive into detail about each of the items in each of these lists. Rather, I'm going to give you a brief introduction and then point you to the download, the course download for this tutorial, which is going to give you basically a list of gear and items, categories, types of items, separated into three pricing tiers so that you can explore on your own what you A, already have, B, might want to invest in. And the goal in this case is to make sure that you have at least a complete set. You don't want to have, a YouTube setup, a video setup, where you're missing some key items and then you don't understand why your videos are not coming out that well or what have you. So three tiers of pricings, but each of them coherent. That is, you could run a YouTube channel in each of these neighborhoods. And so let's dive in. The first tier centers around an iPhone or a smartphone. I'm going to make the assumption that you own a smartphone, that you own something, a Samsung, an iPhone. Generation really doesn't matter as long as it's sometime within the last 5 years, because what you already have in your possession, this means, is 4K video quality recording. You have some amazing audio operating at similar levels. You have great stabilization. You have great color correction. In short, smartphones from many different manufacturers produced in the last 3 to 5 years are better in terms of video quality than many older generation DSLRs that cost a great deal more. So if you own a smartphone, just in your day-to-day life, that means that you actually already have the most expensive piece of equipment in this first tier of video production. No DSLR dedicated camera, no interchangeable lenses, no nothing of that sort. Now, if you do have an iPhone, smartphone or something, there are going to be other things that you need to, in effect, bring out the full possibility and video and audio quality of shooting on your iPhone. We are not recommending that you simply take your iPhone and hold it up in front of you and make videos. That is more along the lines, the style of, say, TikTok or maybe Instagram Reels, where viewers and audience members actually value that kind of rickety, authentic look. But in YouTube viewerships tend to value higher production quality audio and video. And so if you look at the download materials, the course materials for this tutorial, you're going to see a series of very low price, kind of budget friendly adapters and other things that you can use to turn your iPhone into the hub of a low cost sort of tier one video production center. This includes sort of low cost external mics and the adapters that you're going to need in order to connect that low-cost external mic to your iPhone, along with something to mount the iPhone to, meaning a sort of an adapter, and then, of course, some sort of tripod, and an introduction, a possible introduction to basic lighting that you may or may not want to invest in, lighting being a bit more optional. And again, audio as being the place where you really want to invest your energy, your time. So tier one basically has, let's use the iPhone with some very low cost adapters, but let's make a small investment in audio, because as you saw in the previous tutorial that we made a few weeks before, audio is king. Tier two is basically where a person has decided that they want to invest in a dedicated camera for their videos. They don't want to shoot on their smartphone, their iPhone. They want to get a dedicated camera. And there are really two basic routes you can go. One is a camera that has interchangeable lenses, so a DSLR camera. There are many, many different manufacturers. Or if they want a camera that has a built-in non-interchangeable lens, for example, the Sony ZV-1, which is sometimes called a kind of vlogger, a video logger camera. Now, there are a series of decisions that you really need to make at this juncture. If you are going to go the route of a non-interchangeable lens camera, these cameras tend to be designed as a set it and forget it. You need not learn anything about the world of cameras or lenses or anything. You can just invest in this thing and you can get started. And that's very exciting for many people. I know for myself as well. I don't really want to become an expert in lenses. I want to, make my tutorials. The downside of it is that once you've committed to a non-interchangeable lens camera, you can't change the lenses. You can't improve on the quality of that camera by, for example, investing in better quality lenses that will give you that sort of creamy, blurry background that also ups the professional sort of visual quality of your videos. You're basically stuck there. And that's a decision. That's a decision that one needs to make, because when you do go the route of an interchangeable lens camera, DSLR, the entry price can be comparable or a little bit more to a standalone sort of point and shoot camera, but the possibilities for future improvements on that camera are greater. And so you need to think kind of medium, short and medium and long term, and don't make assumptions that this is always going to be something small. My channel doesn't matter. I don't want to invest. What if it fails? All of that's, possible and true. But you don't want to get to a place where you're like, hey, I really enjoy this. I'm doing well at it. And actually I'm learning my way around my camera. Gosh, I wish I had actually taken that amount of money that I put in a point and shoot and actually put it towards a decent DSLR camera in my price range that would have allowed me to continue to grow with it, to learn more, and to have more control over a DSLR. That's another thing. When you have a interchangeable lens camera, these cameras offer the videographer, the photographer, a lot more manual control over all of the settings, whereas the point and shoots tend to be a bit more will fly the plane. You're a passenger along the way. So in the download material, I've outlined just a few samples of DSLR cameras that I consider to be really strong video cameras, and many others do as well, that are in that, let's call it, initial price range. So these are not $5,000 cameras, $10,000 cameras. These are cameras that are somewhere within the range of, say, 600, 700 to just over 1,000, or, in that ballpark. And that's really the neighborhood of an initial investment in video production, that once you make that investment, you can start to really grow with your camera through learning how to use it more efficiently and more effectively, taking kind of video tutorials on your particular camera and how to get the most out of it, and very importantly, in things like interchangeable lenses, the use of external microphones, and a variety of other things. So that's the second tranche, that's the second tier, if you will, in this 3-tier introduction to video kits. Tier 3 is a bit more of the bells and whistle part of the list. This is not an area that we would recommend diving into right away unless you just inherited some money and you need to get it off your books or whatever it is and you want to invest. By all means, more power to you. But this is an area where you want to be aware that equipment like this exists, that it exists in the world. Because as you move through tier 1 and tier 2, or maybe you skip directly to tier 2, you want to kind of know that this stuff exists in the world because you can start to anticipate how this equipment, if and when you decide to acquire it or invest in it, could actually improve and enhance your workflow. So, for example, let's say that on your channel you consider the possibility of live streaming, that's something that you want to do on a consistent basis. Well, there's dedicated tech out there, kind of, over-the-counter consumer tech that is just for the world of streaming. So there are things that are basically video switchers. These are tabletop devices that are miniaturizations of the kinds of equipment that one used to only find in television production studios that allows you to, switch between camera 1 and camera 2, camera 1, 2, and 3, and so forth, to switch between different audio feeds, but now exist on a tabletop device from a variety of manufacturers. And there are other examples that like that. So it's good to know that tech like this exists because when you're in the early stages of your channel, knowing that it exists allows your imagination to run more freely. You're like, oh yeah, well, I heard from Tom and Chris's class that there are these over-the-counter video switcher technology. It would be interesting to start imagining what it would be like to have regular interviewees on my channel in live stream. For now, I'll do it just with the tech I have, but as I get better at live streaming, then I can decide at which moment it makes sense to invest in this tech, which may up the quality of my channel and improve my workflow. So those are the kinds of items that we're going to highlight in tier 3. There are also kind of better, more highly reviewed cameras. There are the lens choices, meaning interchangeable lens choices that, again, add things like a more aesthetically pleasing depth of field, the blurry background. There are rigs for overhead shots. There are a variety of things through which one can build out their studio as they really start to learn their way around their channel, around video production, and where they decide, I really do want to invest in this in a more long-term fashion. So download the course materials, explore tiers 1, 2, and 3. Try to see, do your own research as well. There are some amazing YouTube channels in particular that do deep dives into each of these cameras and various camera manufacturers and gear manufacturers. We're not going to try to replicate that here. This is just a roadmap to how to think about intelligently investing in your YouTube, your video production right now. See you in the next tutorial.